Are you ready?
Yep, I'm going.
Okay. Well, Scott, I read headlines and I see here that neither gubernatorial election amounted to a referendum on the president. Then the next headline, a death blow to Obamacare due to these elections.
Yeah.
What did these elections say?
Yeah, isn't it great to spin the next day? It's more fun than watching watching family court. I mean, the whole point is that it was all set up early yesterday. The Democrats were saying if we lose these races, it's local politics. Republicans were saying it's a referendum on the president. It's probably neither one. It's probably about that 5 or 10% in the middle that has no alliances. This should scare you. I mean, it's that 5 or 10% in the middle that doesn't have any alliance. They vote about every 2 years. Those are good temperature gauges. They probably voted for President Obama and they voted against him yesterday, or voted against Democrats yesterday. So it's just like a poll. It's like a snapshot. But what it does is it's going to get people's attention, especially those blue dog Democrats.
How do you explain it? I mean, exit polls show that 56% of Virginia said the president was not a factor, 60% in New Jersey, yet independents in both those states who went for the president in the last presidential election, 2-1, went against the Democrats in both these states.
Well, it is a referendum on the president. It's a referendum on the health care bill. It's a referendum on the climate bill. And part of their problem was they couldn't get it done. I mean, Republicans have been irrelevant on the sidelines. They didn't have to be in the building. And the Democrats couldn't get this stuff done. They needed to get it done before September. They didn't get it done, and they paid the price yesterday.
Something that may be a little harder to analyze, incumbents. One incumbent governor, Corzine, loses. Incumbent mayor Bloomberg, who was Republican, ran as an independent, had difficulty. Do you see any referendum, or can you analyze any referendum on incumbents in general, regardless of party?
I think what the Bloomberg race shows is that he's met all the people that vote against him. I mean, Bloomberg is an annoying individual, okay? And so I think that's just one of those situations where that's not the same sort of election as the Corzine election. And it's kind of like a popularity contest. I'm not sure that they're in the same zip code as far as what we should read out of those. I'm surprised it was this close. I wouldn't have been surprised if he got beat 2-1. The Corzine race, I think, is much more reflective of the national temperature than the mayor's race was.
You say blue dog Democrats around the nation need to take notice. They are key, it appears, in this health care reform measure in the House and in the Senate. Why should blue dog Democrats have their ears up?
Because they look back at 1994, or they look back at 1993, rather, and they see what happened when that health care thing that was carried by President Clinton went down. That was mishandled. This thing has the same mishandling fingerprints all over it. And in 1994, we saw a massive shift in Congress, both the Senate and the House. And I think that they're looking at this going, man, I want to be with the president, but right now they've had some problems in the first place. And now they see these election results, and the pollsters and pundits are going to spin this as, man, if you get on this thing, you're going to go down next November. And that's going to affect them. They're going to be a little bit shaky.
What should politicians in our state take out of yesterday's results?
That Republicans may get let back into the building. I mean, frankly, they've been irrelevant. They probably look at this and go, well, maybe we'll have a shot at adding some more numbers next November. And some of the shouting we've been doing, the sky is falling, that other people are starting to take notice, not just about 42% of the American public, but maybe it's getting closer to, that they're getting closer to having them be relevant and being listened to.
Do you think this will have any impact on how we see our race for governor develop?
Yes. I think that Lieutenant Governor Askins or Attorney General Edmondson get up this morning going, you know what, we better add another 10% or go after another 5% because President Obama is going, if he's unpopular in New Jersey and he's unpopular in Virginia, you won't believe how unpopular he'll be in Oklahoma a year from now. So they're going to look at this, and I would be surprised if they just don't start distancing themselves from him. Unless he turns it around. If he gets the health care bill passed before the end of the year, the climate control bill passed by the end of the year, maybe they wouldn't distance themselves. But I'll tell you what, if I was an advisor for Jerry Askins or an advisor for Drew Edmondson today, I'm running for Barack Obama.
What about our incumbents in Congress? And I guess we have one senator running, but what about our incumbents in Congress?
Well, they're going to be solid. They're going to get back in there without any sort of problem. Republicans who run in the 5th district can win that. I don't think a Democrat's even there yet. The Dan Boren race will be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if he further distances himself from the president. My guess would be yes.
One other race I want to ask you about, because in New York, and when you start getting to congressional districts, you start getting to a smaller piece of the pie and more localized. But in that race, the local Republican establishment had been in rule of that district since the Civil War. They put a candidate out there. That candidate doesn't even make it to Election Day, and a conservative runs, Democrat wins that for the first time since the Civil War. Does this say anything about the Republican Party establishment just in New York or perhaps everywhere?
Yeah, Republican Party establishment got them from the penthouse to the outhouse, and conservatives have been characterized in many different fashions. The fact is, when conservatives ran the party, you had Ronald Reagan. When the moderates ran the party, you had John McCain. There's a message there, and I think that probably there's going to be, I mean, Michael Steele and these other folks will be talking today, but I think that the conservatives